Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and This Day Live begins now. I'd like to welcome today's panelists, Wale Gomez, Public Affairs Analyst, Chike Ogea, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Bola Akintenrewa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, it's an all-men cast today. Let's begin here in Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered a forensic audit of the operations of the Niger Delta Development Commission. From 2001 to 2019, the president gave the directive when he received governors of the states in the Niger Delta region at the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday. The president said the directive had become imperative in view of the persistent criticisms of the operations of the commission. He said what is currently on ground in the Niger Delta does not justify the huge resources that have been made available to the commission. President Buhari admitted that developing the Niger Delta area required enormous resources compared to other parts of the country with firmer lands. The president, however, said that he will wait for the report of the audit before deciding on the next line of action regarding the commission. Well, Gomez, let me start with you. This is about public funds, public resources. I mean, one report indicates that since the NDDC was established by the Obasanjo administration, that a total of about 65 billion had been spent, and that the president is alarmed that there's no evidence, concrete evidence of what had been done with that 65 billion. And we have reports that, all the chairmen and managing directors of that commission have been asked to come and give a proper account. Is it possible for 65 billion to be spent and there will be no evidence?
I really want to really thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for putting this into light. Number one, we have to understand what forensic audit is all about. Forensic audit technically means that it's an investigation into the modalities and operation of certain sets in the accounting platform. Now, there's a difference between forensic audit and regular audit. The forensic audit tells you it goes deeper because it's a specialized field in accounting that investigate for legal purposes. Maybe there had been fraud or things like that in the operation of any structure. Whereas the normal audit is like making sure that you are complying into the statement of standard accounting practice. So those are two different things. Now, when I heard this the other day about the president wanting to do a forensic audit, I said, now we're getting serious. We want to know what is happening to all our money. The president must not stop with NDDC alone. He must go into other areas of governance, of our infrastructure, of our country, because money has been spent. Now, 65 billion naira in Niger Delta. If you go there right now, I don't think any person will be happy seeing the state of that area. And I support the president in this, but I want him to go further than that. We'll wait for the report of the audit. And
no, but when you say a forensic audit, goes much deeper, I think that only one project has been mentioned so far, a water hyacinth project. That's the particular focus. Because will it be possible, will it be easy to do forensic audit of everything over a period of 18 years? But I know that it looks like they are targeting one particular project. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I mean, forensic audit, you can go to any length, you can go as wide as you want, but you also can be specific. Now, what he is saying that he wants to be specific with that, he can cascade it to others and start going deeper. And the problem with this is that, or the problem with the operators then, is the fact that he's going to find out they're going to find out so many things that should have been done right. And I think we're starting to build a country by investigating what is happening in the country.
Well, Chike, you are from the Niger Delta, and Gomez has just said, look, this is our money. That's Nigerian money. But people from Niger Delta, they tend to say, well, it's our money. we can spend it whichever way we want. You know, what do you think?
Well, Prof is also from the Niger Delta.
Is he?
Yes, Ondo State.
Okay.
It's part of NDDC.
When there is a forensic audit, you invite other people to join the region.
Well, it's interesting.
How convenient.
It's interesting, and I totally endorse what Wale said in the sense that we should start looking into these things and wondering, where these monies went to, as it were. But the truth is this: when those governors went to see the president, they received a shock because, as usual, they had gone there for political purposes. The Niger Delta governor, that is. They had gone there more about who are those on the board of this new NDDC. Does it conform with the statute that set up the act, in terms of the rotation of who was the last MD and who will be the new MD and all that. That's what they went for. And the president gave that to them. The truth is that I'm happy the president also recognizes, because like you said, I worked as a commissioner in Delta State, which is in the heart of the Niger Delta. And I can tell you that the developmental challenges there are enormous and special in the sense that for a road project you will do for maybe 2 billion in a normal place. In the Niger Delta, where the sand, the silt is so soft, you have to evacuate, you have to now, pile and all that. That same project could cost you 10 billion or more. So definitely development there is much more expensive.
The president acknowledged that.
Yes, he acknowledged that, and that is good. But the truth is this, again, forensic audit in the Niger Delta. Is that the only place where we need a forensic audit in Nigeria?
No, it's the NDDC
Let me
specifically.
I agree. Nigeria needs a forensic audit. How much have we spent on power? Where is the power? How much have we spent on roads? Where is the road? Over all the years, that's all I'm saying. So it's a good way to start, you see, because if you asked me, this is one of the major ingredients I told you, and I've said repeatedly that has been lacking in our body politic, which as far as I'm concerned is accountability. But more importantly, is the system of governance we run. What the Constitution forced on us to run as a government, as a system of government, cannot aid all these kind of things we are doing. So the truth is this: we'll wait for this audit. A government has a lifespan. Who knows when it's going to come out? Who knows what we are going to do with it? And the music will go on. We'll go on to the next challenge. We'll get distracted again. But the truth is, we really need something like this. And it should not stop at it just being done. People should be brought to book. People should be brought forward to account for this thing.
Well, some people have said, this audit that the president has ordered should not be presided over by the present board.
No, definitely.
That the president should constitute a new board.
In fact, there's a new board there, so let him swear them in, if you ask me. That's what I think he should do. And funny enough, no, he hasn't been. They have not even taken their names to the Senate. They have not even taken their names to the Senate. They can't act. They don't have any powers to. They are as well as me or you.
Or perhaps maybe what the president has in mind is probably an independent.
Well, yes, I was going to go into that. I think it should be an independent audit, devoid of people coming in and people going out.
I don't think so, really. If the people coming in, who I can tell you, I know them, and they are credible people that are coming in, and that is part of the reason why there's all this shaking going on. If they get those people to work, swear them in, put them through the necessary processes with the Senate, confirm them, and they can, because they are open. They have not even sat there for 1 day.
Well, Prof, let me have your thoughts on this forensic audit of NDDC. Now that Chike insists you are also from the Niger Delta.
He is.
Isn't that conflict of interest?
I agree with Wale to the tune of 50%. Disagree with him 50%. Ditto for Chike. As much as I want to agree with Wale, especially in terms of his differentiation between financial auditing and forensic auditing, I agree. The fundamental, the critical difference between the two is the factor that a forensic, auditing is what is required for purposes of court adjudication.
Yep.
All right? So it must be prepared not simply in terms of investigative manner, but the ingredients, the nitty-gritty required that will enable the court to determine the extent to which, for instance, there had been fraud or mismanagement, etc. all along. That's the critical point. He raised that. So I will agree to that extent.
50%.
But you see, the other 50%, when people commend the president for things like this, what comes to my mind immediately is the issue, the problem of an individual who has eyes that can see, but see long distances. But the eyes are not able to see what are immediate. You know, myopia, hypermetropia, these are the way the scientists want to look at it. I am saying that, for instance,
Parabolic.
this suggestion, decision to have a forensic audit, why is it that we are not talking about those people the EFCC has identified, the Nigerians that the EFCC, ICPC had already criticized, accused? Many of them, where are they? The Senate has become the terra cognita for all the accused people, accused politicians in Nigeria. Now, what is happening to them? I have to draw attention to this because we are giving the impression that if there is a forensic auditing now, there will be an outcome. I'm saying no, we wouldn't have any outcome. It wouldn't go too far. Because, as we have been told, mathematically it has been argued that if A is equal to B, B is equal to C, therefore A is equal to C. Now, if, for instance, we've been having a plethora of, investigations here and there, and at the end of the day, the investigations have not led us to anywhere.
Well,
Please,
Prof, your point is very clear. You are skeptical about it. Yes. Well, let's take another subject quickly. The Nigerian government and organized labor have finally agreed on the percentage increase on the consequential adjustment in workers' salaries as a result of the new minimum wage of 30,000 naira. The Secretary of the Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council, Alade Lawal, confirmed the figures agreed. He said both parties agreed on 23.2 percentage increase for workers at grade level 07, 20% for those at grade level 08, 19% for workers at grade level 09, 16% for those on levels 10 to 14, and 14% for workers at grade levels 15 to 17. Reacting to the agreement, the Labour Union president described the signing of the agreement as a victory for Nigerian workers. Well, Chike, let me start with you, although we'll shortly go on break, but you can kickstart the conversation on this subject.
Well, it's a good end to a good story for Nigerian workers. For the first time, I think the Ministry of Labour is parading two negotiators. They have a chief negotiator and a deputy negotiator. This is the first time we're having two ministers in the ministry. And I think the act of this particular situation should have come in April, I think. And thank God it's going to be backdated, because basically what they are working out is that we now have a base price. We now have a base level and say 30%.
Well, hopefully the arrears, the salary arrears would be paid.
Yes.
But let's take a short break now. The Sunday Talk Show will continue when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday Talk Show, here on the Arise News Channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Wale Gomez, Public Affairs Analyst, Chike Ogia, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, before we went on break, we were discussing the agreement between the federal government and Labour on the new national minimum wage, and you started the discussion.
Yes, and basically what I'm saying is that I'm happy to note that the TUC and the NLC, obviously working on behalf of Labour, are happy because just like your intro has shown, it is about the cascading of the different levels as they go up. If you notice, the percentages come down, so that, obviously it can be something manageable and something the federal government can do. And I'm happy to also note, because as it's famously said, I think by the late MKO, you need two hands to clap. And this is a federation. So whatever they are doing there in Abuja is the federal government structure. There has to be that for the states. So I think they have mandated the unions in the states to sit down with the various governors. I know so many governors, in fact, kudos to Lagos State. They actually said they were ready to pay more. Yeah, and then I think one or two other governments, maybe even Ekiti State, that doesn't end that much. I was surprised.
I think Delta.
And I think Delta as well.
Ekiti State governor said
yes,
they will start paying in October.
In October, you see. So those are going to be part of the sticky areas going forward, I'm sure, because people will want this thing to be backdated. And don't forget, these kind of things would also have repercussions for the pensions as well, and all of that. So it's something that, very welcome, and I just hope government thinks it through, and then the execution can be seamless.
Well, Prof, let me, is this something to celebrate, or there are still some reservations?
50%. Well, you see, for reasons of psychology of human differences, I find it difficult to agree with my colleagues. And the reason cannot be far-fetched. There may be beauty in increasing the salary, but the question I will ask, with the increase, the take-home, all right, for the worker, can it be enough? Will it make them solvent to the extent of being able to live happily, etc.? Because I saw the statement by either the minister, either of information or labor, saying that so amount of money was given to the Shiites. They divided the amount of money and said they can live comfortably with that amount. I think they say about 400 naira per day or whatever. Now, the extent to which this salary increase can be constructive and relevant for me would be to look at the new salary in the context of, inflation in the system. Can somebody on level 7, living in Agege, spending 2-3 hours commuting, changing buses to get to office, going back the same way, how much will she require to pay for medication and things like that? I think this is the way we should look at it. Mere mathematical increase doesn't mean anything, especially that we have a system of political governance that does not emphasize social security. There isn't any social security. So please,
well, Prof, you are recommending wage indexation.
Yes.
If you are tying it to inflation, that's wage indexation.
If you ask me,
and in itself, it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Because there will be no end to it.
He's talking about a living wage. A living wage. That's basically what Prof is talking about. I agree with you, Prof. But
no, but he's tying it to inflation.
An example, just give that one.
Is,
you cannot live comfortably well with this type of salary increase. That's the point.
I don't agree with you, Prof. And the reason why I don't agree with you is the fact that for people to be constantly in the same salary structure for years, and for a government to come in and support them with a little bit of increase, I think the government should be given a
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Please, if you want to have a salarial increase, let it be good enough. Now,
how about the cost of funding it?
That this was negotiated by a tripartite committee, and an agreement was reached, benchmark of 30,000 what has happened now is not the minimum wage itself, is the consequential adjustment
of all the
across
wages.
salary levels
Well,
within the public
we are talking
sector.
about minimum wage. You see, minimum wage in advanced countries is such that it is considered a benchmark below which you cannot pay. All right? So we should be talking about minimum wage, which will be consistent with the definition of a living wage. How much money would you require for you to live so that we will not say...
Well, my only fear, Prof, is that you are taking us back. I made a point. The president set up a tripartite committee of labor, government, private sector, and they worked out
No, they agreed, and they got agreed.
at a benchmark, right? Then, within the public sector, they are now saying, well, you know, for you to pay it, you have to work out what is due percentage-wise to each level. This is what they've now succeeded in doing. But if you now say minimum wage, you know, it has to be this, it should be living wage, it should take people, we're asking for another round of negotiation.
Are you not aware?
But I think we can make the point that what ILO says is that you review the new the minimum wage every 5 years.
Yes, yes.
But that has not been the tradition
Yes.
in Nigeria.
Yes.
So this has been done now. We can then say 5 years, we should not miss
To
it.
what extent have we been complying with the provisions of the International Labour Convention?
That's what he just
That's
said.
what I
International,
said.
International Labour Conventions
We have
provides that, look, for every 4-hour work, you must go on break.
We have not.
In
and we know
Nigeria, you start work 8 a.m., you close 4 p.m. There's no break there.
1 hour.
So people work and use the better part of their life, struggling, etc. all along.
Anyway,
And you know quite well that many people are sent to international conferences to negotiate. So having a tripartite negotiation, etc. all along is one thing. But to what extent are the negotiations themselves very protective of the interests of the workers?
Okay, let's move on to the next topic, and this has to do with Nigeria's First Lady, Aisha Buhari, who has apologized to her children and well-meaning Nigerians over the viral video circulating in the social media for the embarrassment the video might have caused. She commented on the video while receiving First Ladies from states on solidarity visit to the presidential villa. Aisha Buhari, who had been on holiday in the United Kingdom for 2 months, returned to the country at a time when a video was circulating on social media purportedly showing that she had been denied access to the presidential residence. While she confirmed the authenticity of the video, which showed her complaining about huge deployments of security and asking on unidentified persons to leave the villa, she clarified that it was an old video that was circulated by Fatima Daura, daughter of the president's nephew. The First Lady also dismissed rumors circulating online that her husband planned to take a second wife, cautioning against the rise of fake news in the country. Well, Wale Gomez, let me start with you.
Okay.
This is a family issue involving the president of Nigeria.
Technically, it's a family issue. It's a family affair. You just nailed it on the head. And the First Lady has come out to say, hey, for the embarrassing situation we find ourselves, I'm sorry. And I think since it's a family issue, we should just let it go. And they've also alleged to the fact that they wonder about the president's wife trying to get married is all fake news. And I mean, that's been a very big embarrassment to the country, as far as I'm concerned. And one thing we have to understand is the president and Mama Daura, whatever, they're one family, and there's nothing we can do about it. And all the news that's going around, the First Lady has said, hey, I'm sorry about the old video, and we need to just move on with it.
Prof, do you concur?
But I can never concur because we do not wear the same glasses. You know, there is a thin line between the private life of President Muhammadu Buhari as an individual, as a private person, and as a public person. He's president of Nigeria. He's not president of his family.
But he still has his family.
Hold on, I'm coming. Look, you see, when people come into public governance, you must go there and understand that, look, the extent to which you have privacy is to the extent that, okay, you have your wife, you are in your bedroom, you are all those things all along.
The other room.
Please, when you go to the more advanced, more sophisticated society, you discover that, look, what you think is private to you is nothing. People will be asking you questions. Please, you see, for instance, why I do not agree with you is this. Let's ask some questions. This so-called video that has gone viral and that has been dated back to 2 years ago, what prompted it? We have been told that there is no smoke without fire. There is no fire without smoke, in whichever way you want to argue it. What led to the video? Now, who released the video to the public?
The daughter of the first.
No, the daughter said, the daughter Fatima Daura said, she recorded, but she didn't
display it.
Yes.
Okay.
She made that one clear.
Okay.
We need to find out who was responsible for the release of the video. Now, I'm trying to tell you that when we are discussing things like this, Aisha Buhari is apologizing. Apologizing for what? There's no good basis for her to apologize, unless we are assuming, insinuating that
She's apologizing for the embarrassment that has happened to the family of the.
There's no embarrassment there because it was consciously done.
But not
by
by her.
some. Hold on. You see, look.
Well, Prof, if you may just hold your thoughts,
Yes.
we'll take another short break, and then when we come back, you will continue. Welcome back to This Day Live here on the Arise News channel. Still with me in the studio, I have Wale Gomez, Public Affairs Analyst, Chike Ogia, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bulitac Center for International and Strategic Studies. Now, Prof, you were still commenting on the apology by the First Lady. And you said that there is no basis at all for any apology.
Thank you very much for reminding me. First point, something must have transpired between Fatima Daura and the First Lady. Nobody is talking about that. There is no basis for a Fatima to be rude to a First Lady, even if the father is a nephew of the president. Mr. President is president of Nigeria. He's not an individual person. The second point is that we were talking about fake news, etc. In every fake news, there's a scintilla of truth.
That is not true, Prof.
Okay, it is true.
It is not true.
Hold on.
But carry on. It's your point of view.
It's very agreeable. For every fake news, the individual who is coming with the fake news has an agenda. All right? That's a motivation.
That's right.
So a fake news is not just put there. In this case, for instance, people have been talking about the misunderstanding between Aisha and the husband.
You say there is a scintilla of truth in fake news.
Yes.
When they said Mbadiwe died, and some people, including RBK or Kafo, confirmed it, it turned out at the end of the day that the man was still alive.
Yes.
Yes, but you see...
So where is the element of truth in it?
Even
death is not just a question of 1 second. It's not. All right? Even the Bible is so clear on it that we die every day. All right. So,
Anyway, Prof,
this type of death...
I get your point, but let me have Chike Ogia's input on this matter.
No, you see, for me, it's, like I said, it's a mixed mash situation of what Wale and what Prof really is saying. The truth is that we should not be assaulted with these kind of things from the villa. You were there. Yes, it's the presidential villa, and what should go on there should stay in there. It is very, very embarrassing when this kind of thing comes out. Yeah, there's no doubt. It speaks to how vile our politics have become. And like Prof said, that must be the motive why there's someone out there. Because if you remember, when there was that thread of fake news coming out about the president that was going to get married to some minister of his, blah, blah, blah. And when everything turned out, they kept on giving you deadlines. It's going to be on this day at this mosque with the card,
Business cards,
and everything kept on crumbling like a pack of cards. And I think that was when whoever was spinning all of that put that video in to make it look like Aisha Buhari had just rushed in to come and scuttle that supposed marriage. So basically, you know, my take in this is not even the rightness and wrongness and all of that of this, is that how come our politics have come so vile? Yes, and I think that is what we should be looking at. It's not healthy for our country. It's not good for us. You have worked in the villa. We must understand that, yes, it is a public place. It's a place that people that stay there are holding in public trust. It is a place that should be sacred, like the White House or number 10 Downing Street, and it should be given that kind of respect. I don't care whoever you are, what you've done for the president before, whether they said you used to give the president money when you had no money, or he was in jail, or you're the nephew, or you're the cousin. Look, this is the president, and his family should be made to function in a way that befits, you know, the dignity of this country.
Of the post in the country.
That is
thank you very much. Well, I think...
Shiki, before you escape, should the family of any president, all right, be accommodated in the presidency?
No, definitely not.
All right.
Definitely not. It should just be his immediate family.
Let's move on. Yesterday marked 33 years since the demise of one of Nigeria's veteran journalists, Dele Giwa, who many refer to as a man with a mighty pen. In 1984, he and other journalists, Riepu, Dan Agbese, and Yakubu Muhammad, founded the Newswatch magazine. The magazine redefined investigative journalism in Nigeria. Dele Giwa died after opening a parcel bomb at his residence. His assassination has become one of the most high-profile court cases in the country. His untimely death was a big blow to Nigerian journalism and an ugly slap on the face of the profession. Dele Giwa, well, very sad. For many years, newspapers kept asking who killed Dele Giwa. Yeah. And his death, of course, raises questions about the journalism profession, the relationship between government and the media, the attitude of certain persons, you know, maybe institutions or authorities, you know, with regard to the independence of the media. And 33 years later, journalists are still asking who killed Dele Giwa. Dele Giwa graduated in 1975. He worked for about 4 years with the New York Times. Okay. And then he came to Nigeria, worked with the Daily Times, worked with the National Concord, and then he and the others then later on established Newswatch in 1984. Yeah. And they changed the face of Nigerian journalism. And Dele Giwa, you know, was a very prominent columnist, one of the best in the history of journalism in Nigeria, with a column titled Parallel Snaps.
I remember.
I'm sure you must have read Parallel Snaps.
I did.
Yeah, but Chike, let me come back to you. Let me start with you.
Yes. Dele Giwa, if you ask me, Ibrahim Gbadamosi Babangida was
head of state at the time.
Yes, he was the head of state. He was the military president. Enigmatic leader he was at that time, of course, and in an aberration, because the military is an aberration. And I think he has two burdens that would follow him to his death. Of course, one is June 12th, if you know the elections and what happened thereafter. He has to vicariously take total responsibility for that. And the second one is the murder of Dele Giwa, because, of course, the buck stops on his table. Dele Giwa was barely 39. He was never 40. And like you said, 33 years ago, we had this novel concept of a man sitting in his house and he's delivered what should be a mail, opens it, and goes up in explosion. Until date, we never knew what happened and, you know, who did what and what happened. It speaks volumes. It shows the kind of what journalists like you and so many of your colleagues, the kind of hazards you have to go through in carrying out your profession. As we say where I come from, may this never happen again. Obviously, the journalists and government are still in the cat and mouse battle. You know, Showore is still there. The other chap in Calabar, you know, so over time, you know, and I think it might be something, although with the advent of democracy, there should be no need for that. There should be absolutely no need for trying to gag the press and the kind of things we see in most of the third world states.
Gomez, Dele Giwa.
Yeah, it's a very sad day for journalism in this country, and the fact that the true face of journalism was murdered in this. And since then, 33 years, as a country, we haven't had a chance or the opportunity to even go for the murderers and bring them to books. And I support what Chico was saying, that the amount of insecurity that is going on within the journalistic industry in terms of being gagged and everything. I think that journalists should be made to, practice their trade in the comfort of their own intelligence. Most of the time I watch CNN and I see how the journalists are free to express themselves without being gagged, and so that seems not to be the case in Nigeria, either killed or imprisoned or whatever. So we need to come together as a country and let them be comfortable, because they are the face of the people. And they are the ones that are the minds of the people. And they should be made to be comfortable in their trade. It's a sad day for journalism, and I feel sorry for this.
Thank you. Well, Prof.
In Nigeria, the society that we do have is one that acquiesces to anything without further query. If there was a letter bomb, a parcel bomb in 1984 that killed Dele Giwa, what is it that had been done beyond asking questions? What is it that had been done to prevent recurrence? You see, Dele Giwa is just an illustration. But I'm making the point that, look, in 1984, what was in vogue in terms of method of terrorism was letter bomb, parcel bomb. All right? Today, the system, the method has become very sophisticated, very diversified in terms of method techniques. But we are always good to observe, to ask questions, but not doing anything to prevent that. And the manifestation of the 1984 type of terrorism is such that today we are looking at it in different forms. Yet, we are only asking questions, but we are not trying to nip in the bud, further diversification, how to prevent further this terrorism. I think that the killer, even though some people have come, there have been reports giving names of people who they believe actually carried the letter bomb. They gave names. There are various reports. Literature is clear on this. So if you say you don't know, it depends on what you want to believe in. But we are not talking about that now. The issue is that the person, whoever might have killed Dele Giwa, all right, whether he is dead or is still living, is carrying the burden of Dele Giwa, not Dele Giwa carrying, not Babangida carrying two types of burden, June 12 and Dele Giwa. No, it is the killer that actually remains the carrier of the burden, and he will suffer for that one. The only thing now is that, look, Dele Giwa might have died physically. What he stands for, or what he stood for by that time, is still lingering, is there, and that one will be a permanent threat to the killers for years more.
Prof, you're correct, but let's now take another break here on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Stay. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel. Still here in the studio, we have Wale Gomez, public affairs analyst, Chike Ogia, former Commissioner of Information, Delta State, and Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Boli Tax Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Now, Let's take a look at Brexit. In the United Kingdom, the government is insisting it will take the country out of the European Union at the end of October, despite being forced to ask for an extension. Boris Johnson sent the letter unsigned after a major setback in the Commons to his Brexit strategy. But he then sent a second letter, which he did sign, saying he believed the delay would be a mistake. The president of the EU Council, President Donald Tusk, has acknowledged receipt of the UK's extension request and said he will consult EU leaders on how to react. The ministers are confident that they can still take the UK out of the EU by October 31st. Now, that's the situation in the United Kingdom. Yesterday, known as a Super Saturday, the Parliament decided to vote in support of the amendment, the Letwin Amendment, the Oliver Letwin Amendment. And by that amendment, Boris Johnson had no option other than to obey the terms of the Benn Act. And it was on the basis of that he now sent a letter to Brussels. But of course, he didn't sign the letter. And there have been indications that this may in fact be an act of contempt, and that, Parliament or some interested parties could go to court, or, maybe refuse to acknowledge the fact that, he wants Brexit by all means, on 31st October. So the situation in the UK is still fluid, but, the ministers, particularly the foreign minister and others, they're still hoping that by Monday or Tuesday, they'll be able to get the withdrawal agreement bill through Parliament. But would that happen? Is Boris Johnson, acting well? And then again, would the European Union grant the extension that has been requested for? Because in any case, the concurrence of the 27 other members will be required before there can be any extension. Prof, I come to you.
In international relations, a constitutive member state of a sovereign state does not have the right to relate with sovereign states worldwide. It is the executive arm of government that has the responsibility to do letters, to write letters, to communicate through the diplomatic missions of the country, either through non-verbal or otherwise. So in this case, when we talk about content of the Parliament, yes, there can be content, but it is still the executive arm of government that has the full and exclusive responsibility of doing a letter, sending a letter on behalf of government of the United Kingdom to a supranational authority that the European
But is an unsigned letter valid?
Hold on, that's where I'm coming to. Signing a letter, the signature itself is not the only determining dynamic. All right, for a letter to be valid, there are many, you know quite well that, look, there are papers, there are non-papers. When you go to all these African Union, United Nations meetings, etc., they give papers that are never signed. And the purpose is clear. The bearer of the letter, all right, you know him. But for documentation purposes, you can never trace the source. I am saying that what Boris Johnson is trying to say is that, look, I can convey your message as a parliament, but the position of the executive arm of government is quite different.
So that's why he signed the second letter, in which he more or less said he didn't think that a delay was necessary.
Of course. Now, you see, if people are saying yes, he wants a Brexit by all means, of course, it's well known. That's his position. So the parliament has a strategic calculation. The executive arm has a strategic calculation. The strategic calculations of both are on parallel lines, and they cannot meet. So what's happening now is that, look, it's just like when presidents, you are very much aware of this. There are times we prepare speeches for presidents, 2 or 3, depending on the situation you are going to meet. All right. So when you get to your destination and you discover that the first speech is not good enough for the situational reality on the ground, you look at the other one. So I think that Boris Johnson is still working according to his agenda.
Well, Chike.
For me, I will just talk on my hints, my hunch I've always had. I've always felt that Brexit was not something that was thought through by the British people. I've always believed that Boris, very smart guy. I know he did good things for London when he was the mayor. Yeah. But funny enough, the deal he got is not even as good as Theresa May's deal that he shut down so violently. And I think he obviously is going to be caught up in his own cocoon. Yes, that's right, because this thing is not going to happen. Did you see the amount of protesters out there
over a million
of Remainers now? All
that
of a
really
sudden,
want to.
You wonder where they are coming from.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, if it goes to another referendum,
lose.
This whole thing will be reversed. And I just, it's very interesting. And I just think that Boris has maybe overreached himself.
I'll come from a good angle because I was present, I voted. And,
you voted?
Yeah, I voted. I voted.
He's one of our dual citizens. Yes.
You have dual nationality.
In the constitution, I'm allowed to have it.
Okay, it's interesting.
Even 3 if you want.
Yes.
You have
British
somebody who is a stakeholder.
Yeah, I think the British Nigerian, is it an American?
Yes.
Brazilian.
Are you a Brazilian or a Remainer?
No, actually, the person that really sold this idea of Brexit to us was that racist man. It was Nigel Farage.
Yes, Farage.
And he went to the market and sold this Brexit, not giving people the facts of what's on ground. And when the people voted and the result came out, that's when they came out with the what's on ground, and people found out, what have we done? Now, one thing about the British people is very sure. The reason why
you say one thing about us.
No, I'm a Nigerian first. I'm a thoroughbred Nigerian first before any British stuff. No, you can't do that.
Exactly.
No, that's number one. Number two, the Scottish, they don't want to leave EU. And Britain cannot survive without the Scottish. So, I mean, this whole charade that is running around, I can tell you it's going to be dead on arrival when it gets there finally. All right? So, that's my own view. But the French President Macron has come out with another angle that he's not going to support the extension.
Yes, he said so.
So we're now looking at it from different angles now. Right. Tomorrow will be the deciding day. Let's see what's going to happen tomorrow.
The beginning of what you have said is clear. The principle of unanimity is required at the level of consultations. France is backing out, meaning now that there will not be any consent for.
But the Germans might accept.
Even no, you need consensus.
You need the concurrence of all the 27 members.
That's what I'm saying, for it to be extended.
In this case, the implication is that there will be Brexit without deal. And then when you say that Farage didn't come up with the details, etc., the question I will put before you is that why is it that Britain joined the European Economic Community by that time, 1973, January 1. Then in 1975, there was already a referendum on whether to continue to sustain the membership. So you see, the extent to which it can be rightly argued that if there were to be another referendum today, most British will change their position.
Well,
it's very arguable.
Well,
very
point
arguable.
well made. We've got to go now. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this exciting session. We've been watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now. And thank you very much for watching. See you next week.